Good morning, everyone. State Senator Chapin Rose, 51st Senate District. Moreover, I'm a former prosecutor. Like most prosecutors, started in traffic court, prosecuted lots and lots of DUIs out of Champaign County many, many years ago. But that's before all the rules changed. And we're here today to talk about a bill that I'm filing, Senate Bill 4196, with respect to how law enforcement has been literally handcuffed in this state when dealing with immigrations and customs enforcement. And, you know, in the old days, when I was a prosecutor, if you had someone in custody that had committed an offense in the state of Illinois, we'd absolutely inform our federal partners, and if need be, they would take custody of that individual in a secure setting and then take them into the federal system for wherever they might head, deportation or otherwise. But the bottom line is there was communication between law enforcement and our federal partners. Under Illinois current law, none of that happens. In fact, current law enforcement is absolutely prohibited from even telling ICE they have someone in custody. Moreover, if ICE knows they're in custody, ICE can't now, as of this law that took effect in January, come pick them up in a safe and secure setting. And I want to get into that in a second before I introduce our guest. But my bill would basically reopen the lines of communication between Illinois law enforcement and our federal partners. It would allow them to communicate together. It would importantly remove the prohibitions that against agreements to detain individuals. And by the way, this would apply when federal law enforcement comes with a valid, enforceable federal warrant. That's critical. So this is not a question of, hey, we just picked up some guy off the street. This is a valid, enforceable federal warrant, okay? It's a big deal. These people were wanted for something, usually something very dangerous. I'm also going to point out that this would repeal the courthouse access rules and this idiotic notion that somehow criminals should get a 1,000-foot head start when being released from custody at a courthouse. That is not hypothetical. In fact, I have now had 4 individuals in and around my district killed by illegal immigrants. Katie Abraham's father, Joe, is here today, and he's going to talk in a minute. But I want to also talk about Mike and Gail Clayton, who were killed last year in Coles County by an illegal drunk driver and another passenger, who was also arrested because there was ammunition in the vehicle, and they were held in the Clark County Jail. If this law that Governor Pritzker signed into law in January were to have been in effect last fall when this case was adjudicated, that second individual, when he was released under the Safety Act the next morning, despite being illegal in possession of ammunition, when he was released under the Safety Act the next morning, ICE would not have been able to come and arrest him while he was already in secure custody of the Clark County Sheriff. He would have literally been given a 1,000-foot head start. Imagine where that could lead, and imagine how unsafe that is for the people of Clark County to have that kind of handoff that could have been done in a secure setting between law enforcement agencies while the individual is in custody versus a foot chase, which is what the law, Governor Pritzker signed a law, would have allowed. Absolutely insane. But aside from filing this bill to actually, I think, bring just some common sense back to the equation, law enforcement should talk to law enforcement. We should be able to detain valid, enforceable federal warrants long enough to let our federal partners come pick them up. Bad guys should not be given a 1,000-foot head start. That's insane. But I want to bring this all home to a very human level. And we had a terrible tragedy in Urbana where 2 young ladies with the future ahead of them were killed by an illegal drunk driver. One of them, Katie Abraham, her father, Joe, is here today. And I want him, and I want the world, frankly, to hear his story. Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you, Senator Rose. And I appreciate you and your team. We've been sort of talking and going back and forth on this bill for several weeks now. So this is, I really appreciate the fact that you engaged an angel parent on this. And this law would have protected Katie. Why? When Julio Cucabol came into our country as Juan Suarez in Illinois, the federal government, U.S. Marshals knew he wasn't Juan Suarez from Mexico. They knew he was Julio Cucabol from Guatemala. So if Illinois had a basic common sense, just basic vetting, working with the federal partners, he wouldn't have been in Illinois, he wouldn't have killed 2 women. So this bill, that one provision alone is going to protect people. It would have protected Katie. I'd have her with me now. So appreciate that. I think this needs to pass. If nothing else, to me, it seems so irrational that any law enforcement community doesn't work with others. No one's asking from a federal perspective that local and state law enforcement become ICE agents. No one's asking that. All they're asking is work with us a little bit to coordinate so we're not out in the communities. But when you're on the communities, I sense certain governors want ICE out in the communities. So there is this type of issue they can use against ICE. But think about the fact that this is a federal law enforcement agency. And other law enforcement agencies are not stepping up and saying, we will cooperate with you. They are saying we reject you. And that is just not good enough in any sense.
Joe, thank you. And we are obviously heartfelt for your tragedy. And I don't think anybody watching this can pretend or should pretend to stand in your shoes. I do want to just add again that this is about just common sense and keeping the people of Illinois safe, whether it's Katie or Mike or Gail or anyone else. You know, they would still be alive today had this issue been taken seriously. We're now taking it seriously, and what happens? In comes, the state of Illinois prevents cooperation, even when there's a valid, enforceable federal warrant. Illinois law enforcement is not allowed to cooperate with ICE. That is insane. Governor Pritzker gave the bad guys a 1,000-foot head start. Head start. Why on earth, if you got a bad guy in custody in the Clark County Sheriff's jail, why wouldn't we do the handoff right there? Why would we put him back into the community to make people less safe? It is just absolutely insane where we're at. And this is crying out for people to stop the rhetoric and instead focus on common sense, or what used to be common sense. Law enforcement should be able to cooperate. We should be able to hand off bad guys in secure settings so they don't flee, run away, whatever else mayhem that could occur from that situation. And for goodness sakes, the first goal and objective of any government should be to keep the people of that jurisdiction safe. Our goal should be to keep the people of Illinois safe. We are not safe. The system that Governor Pritzker has created has made us less safe. It is dangerous, and until we install just some common sense back into this, more and more people are going to be in their lives, and their families are going to feel this impact. We'll be happy to take any questions, unless, Joe, do you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I mean, I think you're 100% right. This is just simple common sense.
Simple common sense.
And we ought to get this done.
Correct.
Mr. Abraham, how does this bill help you feel like you are helping Katie's legacy?
Because I get the sense, as long as law enforcement can work together, again, think of the guy who killed Katie. If they can just cooperate a little bit, you will vet some of these guys out. There's no shame in vetting illegal immigrants, bum rushing the border or the state, and then the state allowing just a free-for-all. So I think this will help at least put some minor checks that would have saved Katie.
And Senator Rose, how do you plan to move forward with this legislation? What are you going to do on your end to try to get this passed?
Look, there's still a month left, and of this session, we read all day long about the Chicago Bears and what a big deal that is, and the Senate Majority Leader is talking about how there's no deadlines when it comes to the Chicago Bears. Well, you know what? We got a month left. The lives of the people of Illinois, the heartache and horrible loss and tragedy of the family members, when they lose these loved ones, that is far more important than any football team. So there's a month left. This can absolutely get done.
One more thing I want to add is that I think what people don't appreciate is, you know, I hear a lot of, well, this is drunk driving, citizens do it, and they kill people every day. I don't disagree with that, and we ought to do better in that realm. But what they don't seem to appreciate is I carry this extra burden now. Katie wasn't just killed by a citizen drunk driver. She was killed by someone who should have never been here, using an alias, previously deported. I mean, I could go on, right? And he's the one that killed her. So this would have protected that. And I carry this extra burden. No one seems to have any consideration around these angel families that have to carry this extra burden of people being here that should not have been here.
The extra burden, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but literally the extra burden being these individuals would still be alive today had these folks never been in the United States.
That's right.
End of story, right?
Yeah, and that's it.
It was
That's
completely preventable.
That's simple. It's that simple.
It's
How
that
this doesn't happen, Illinois, I hope voters are paying attention. If something as simple as this can't get through, I don't know then.
Anything else? Joe, thank you. And again, we're so sorry for your loss.
It's a devastating thing.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you.